Hello, very beautiful and serene greetings of this lovely evening to all of you. Dear friends, in today's economic session, I would like to extend hearty welcome to you, wherein we are basically going to explore the increasing diversification of the overall international trade prospects which India is extending across the globe. And this is really amazing. Really amazing. All of us are quite aware of the fact that what is the current scenario existing worldwide? The increasing geopolitical tensions, the rising intensity of the Russia-Ukraine war, the rising global headwinds related to a lot of disturbances being caused in the overall balance, in the overall equilibrium state because of the prolonged COVID pandemic. But still, in such times, even being an emerging economy, the developing economy, still India is making a considerable progress which is beyond imagination, and that's why our country is getting highlighted across the globe because of its extraordinary performance. We are diversifying our international trade at a very appreciable rate. So dear friends, every other day we are seeing that India is signing the International Trade Pact, that is the free trade agreement with one of the major economies across the globe. This is really amazing. The recent one being the pact signed with Australia in December 2022. Before that, we had signed the pact with UAE, that is the United Arab Emirates. So had the times been normal, without any global headwind, without any uncertainties, so can we imagine where we had been lying in terms of the overall economic performance? Isn't it amazing? It's truly worth an applause. So all this has been made possible because of the extremely appreciable perseverance and the overall stability and the visionary and far-sighted dynamics of our country. The extraordinary leadership pattern is really a very responsible factor, as a result of which is of no surprise that India is being considered as the bright spot in today's gloomy global economic scenario. And this has been commented by the leading international organizations like World Bank, International Monetary Fund, who are actually visualizing and predicting a very positive aspect for the economic growth of India, where they are forecasting the global recession for the world economy with the global growth at around 1.7%, which is actually the lowest or the very least performing category for the entire globe. There they have been highlighting India as one of the most stable and a very well performing economy. So this is really outstanding. So dear friends, on this note, we are dedicating this session to actually explore how India is diversifying its trade relationship with the major economies like USA, that is the United States of America, and Guyana. So we are going to analyze the trade relationships with these particular countries and how our respected ministries are putting in their heart and soul to make these deals the great success with a very long-term vision. So let's begin. Last night, the Office of the United States Trade Representative and India's Ministry of Commerce and Industry issued a joint statement on the United States-India Trade Policy Forum, that is TPF, held in Washington, D.C. on January 11, 2023. Ambassador Atul Kashyap, President of the U.S. Chambers of Commerce, U.S.-India Business Council, issued the following comments on the US-India Trade Policy Forum held in Washington, D.C. on 11th January. The TPF is basically an important step in sustained effort for strengthening the India-US commercial ties as per USIBC, that is United States-India Business Council. The India-US Trade Policy Forum meeting was held here on Wednesday, that is on 11th January. It was actually co-chaired by the US Trade Representative Catherine Tai and Union Commerce and Industry Minister Mr. Piyush Goyal. The India-US Trade Policy Forum meeting that concluded here is actually an important step in the sustained effort for strengthening the commercial ties between the two countries, a top American business body has said. The India-US Trade Policy Forum meeting was held here on Wednesday, and it was co-chaired by the US Trade Representative Catherine Tai and Union Commerce and Industry Minister Mr. Piyush Goyal. President of the USIBC, Atul Kashyap, applauded the two countries for taking the steps that would further enhance the trade ties. The latest India-US Trade Policy Forum was actually an important step in the sustained effort to strengthen the commercial ties between the world's oldest and largest democracies, he said. We are especially encouraged by both sides' expressed intent to actually reconvene the TPF on a quarterly basis, and by the statement's clear recognition that the potential of the bilateral trade partnership remains unfulfilled, Kashyap said. Overall, the joint statement reaffirmed both the United States and India's commitment to greater economic cooperation, joint environmental stewardship, and demonstrated the mutual interest in enabling greater mobility of goods, services, and skills between our societies, he said. India and the United States of America on Wednesday, that is on 11th January, launched a new TPF working group on resilient trade. The creation of a new working group on resilient trade basically reflects the urgent demand for a high standard, high trust, and highly dependable trading ecosystem from industry and civil society, Mr. Kashyap said. So, the moves to streamline the testing and certification of telecommunication equipment is a pivotal step in reducing the compliance burden and promoting our joint leadership and cooperation in essential technologies, said the USIBC president. So the progress on US business visas will also bolster America's economic competitiveness and allow us to benefit from the entrepreneurial spirit and wealth of the human capital in India's talent pool. This is really a very empowering statement, hence I would like to repeat it. The progress on US business visas will also bolster America's economic competitiveness and hence allow us to benefit from the entrepreneurial spirit and wealth of the human capital in India's talent pool, Mr. Kashyap said. So, as both sides, that is US and India, continue their talks, we hope to see the continued progress on medical device pricing and strengthening India's intellectual property regime, both essential elements to expand our cooperation in healthcare, he said. So strengthening enforcement of intellectual property rights and the protection of confidential business information will be central to India's rise as an innovation hub in the 21st century, he added. We also hope to see the resolution of the cross-sector market access and tariff issues, and therefore welcome the intent for a bilateral settlement on long-standing WTO disputes, Mr. Kashyap said. The United States-India Business Council president appreciated the USTR expressing the openness to restoring India's beneficiary status under the US Generalized System of Preferences Program, that is GSP. The US Chamber of Commerce continues to urge Congress to reauthorize the GSP program so that the United States can lead on trade and hence strengthen our economic ties with our most important partners as part of the administration's friend-shoring initiative, Mr. Kashyap said. So we look forward to seeing both sides, that is US and India, continuing constructive dialogue at the next Indo-Pacific Economic Framework Ministerial, where the United States, India, and the 15 other member countries will actually shape a new phase of global development founded on trust, focused on economic resilience, and led by free societies, he said. This is a very powerful concluding remark. So, there is no free trade agreement, and US and India looking at the bigger picture as per Mr. Piyush Goyal. India and the United States are looking at the big picture of trade instead of 1:1 ratio based outcomes, the Commerce and Industry Minister Mr. Piyush Goyal said while ruling out a free trade pact between the two sides. I think we both agreed that we should look at the big picture, Mr. Goyal said in Washington after the 13th India-US Trade Policy Forum meeting. He also said that the US has prima facie expressed satisfaction on India's new data protection bill. India and the United States had been discussing a mini trade deal during the President Donald Trump's term and restoring the Generalized System of Preferences, that is GSP, for duty-free imports of Indian goods into the United States was part of the talks. So in terms of GSP, I have not heard any significant clamor from the Indian industry to focus our energies on the GSP issue. I have raised it today with my counterparts. It's an issue, but it's not something which has been high on our priority lists or something on which we spend a lot of time to discuss. It was discussed, but more in passing, and I have placed on record our request that GSP should be restored, Mr. Goyal said, insisting that GSP withdrawal has not been to the detriment of the growing trade ties. Mr. Goyal co-chaired the India-US TPF meeting with US Trade Representative Ms. Catherine Tai. He also held a bilateral meeting with the United States Secretary of Commerce Ms. Gina Raimondo. Ms. Catherine Tai and I decided that this is not the age and day where we will be looking at literally. That I give you one item, you give me one item. This is simply the barter system. And we square off the issues. I think we both agreed that we should look at the big picture. We should look at what's good for both countries. And at the ministerial level, we set the context in with them. The officials should find day-to-day solutions, he said. The minister said that the issue of Russian oil was not even discussed in the 3 days that I was here. So responding to a question on the mini trade deal, Mr. Goyal said it was too many to really merit any great effort on both sides. We have even forgotten most of those issues. We are looking at much bigger ambitions in our trade with the United States of America. The United States of America is currently not looking at any free trade deals with any country whatsoever as a matter of their political policy. This is not on the table. Rather than that, we are focusing on greater market access. I repeat, we are focusing on greater market access. We are focusing on ease of doing business, Mr. Goyal said. Very well demonstrated, dear sir, and it's really commendable. The way we have been progressing, it's really very extraordinary, because this is the reality, the current scenario of the global economy. It's really very thought-provoking that had the times been normal, what all miracles we would have been created. Now we move on to our relationship with Guyana. Guyana president seeks India's participation in becoming the oil and gas sector. Guyana President Mr. Mohammad Irfan Ali has sought the participation of India's public and private enterprises and skilled manpower in his country's developmental efforts, especially in the booming oil and gas sector. Since 2015, Guyana has discovered significant oil and gas reserves with the potential volumes of nearly 11 billion barrels. There have been 31 oil discoveries in the South American countries' Stabroek block alone. The cooperation in oil and gas figured prominently in discussions between the Indian leaders and Ali, who was actually the chief guest at the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, that is the PBD convention in the Madhya Pradesh city of Indore. Mr. Ali's main message at his meeting with the Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji was that as Guyana prepares for further growth on the back of oil and gas finds, the country wants India's public and private sector entities to participate in the overall developmental process. Mr. Saurabh Kumar, Secretary East in the External Affairs Ministry, told a media briefing in Indore. The Guyana president is actually very keen on skill development and he wants skilled Indian manpower to go to Guyana, Mr. Kumar added. Guyana is expected to increase oil production from the current level of 340,000 barrels a day to 1.64 million barrels a day by the end of the decade, hence making it a major production center for hydrocarbons in the future. India, the world's third largest energy consumer, has sought to diversify the supplies in recent years. The Petroleum Minister, Mr. Hardeep Puri, is actually expected to meet Mr. Ali when he travels to New Delhi during his visit. The Guyana president, who is accompanied by a 25-member business delegation, will also meet officials of India's state-run energy companies and participate in other business meetings. Suriname President Mr. Chandrikar Persad Santokhi, who was the special guest of honor at the PBD convention, too expressed interest in Indian participation in his country's effort to explore for oil and gas reserves. The oil and gas sector is actually a major area for cooperation with both Guyana and Suriname, Mr. Kumar said. So, at his meeting with Sri Modi ji, Mr. Ali also discussed cooperation in areas such as infrastructure, IT parks, renewable energy, agriculture, and food processing. During a meeting between Modi ji and Mr. Santokhi on Monday, the Indian side agreed to restructure Suriname's debt under several Indian lines of credit in view of the South American country's economic difficulties, Mr. Kumar said. Mr. Santokhi, who also invited Modi ji and the President Draupadi Murmu ji to participate in celebrations being organized by Suriname in June 2023 to mark the 150th anniversary of the arrival of Indians to the country. Indian origin people basically account for a 27% majority in Suriname's population. Osif Said, Secretary for Overseas Indian Affairs in the External Affairs Ministry, said the 3-day PBD, that is the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas Convention, also provided an opportunity for 5 Indian ministers to meet the diaspora groups from different parts of the world and discuss their issues. The External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar held separate meetings with his counterparts from Panama and Suriname and Malaysia's Human Resource Minister. Madhya Pradesh Additional Chief Secretary Mohammad Suleiman, who heads the state's Overseas Indians Department, said the delegations from 27 countries joined a Global Investors Summit and presented the proposals for cooperation in medical education, investments, and skill development. A group from Saudi Arabia made a proposal for employing the manpower who undergo specialized training at ITIs and polytechnics. Mr. Suleiman said the two sides are actually looking to sign a memorandum of understanding, that is the MOU, in this regard. During the President Murmuji's meeting with her counterpart from Guyana, she said India is actually very keen to strengthen its development partnership, and India deepened the cooperation for the capacity building and training. Pointing to major discoveries of oil in Guyana, Murmuji said there is immense scope for collaboration in this area as India has the requisite expertise across the entire oil and gas value chain. Srimati Murmuji also met Mr. Santokhi and reiterated India's commitment for providing technical cooperation and contributing to skill development in Suriname. Both leaders discussed the ways to advance the cooperation in trade, energy, technology, and culture. So, India and Guyana are to join the forces in oil and gas. India and Guyana have agreed to cooperate in the oil and gas sector, including the long-term crude purchase from the South American country and investment in its upstream sector. The oil minister, Mr. Hardeep Singh Puri, met the Guyana president, Mr. Mohammad Irfan Ali, on Thursday, that is on 12th January 2023. The leaders agreed on direct government-to-government cooperation across the entire spectrum of the oil and gas sector, including increased long-term offtake, participation in exploration and production activities in Guyana, technical cooperation in the midstream and downstream sector, and capacity building, the oil ministry said in a statement. The leaders have agreed to set up the two technical teams to take forward these discussions, the ministry said. The contours of future cooperation would be actually finalized during the visit of Guyana's Vice President, Mr. Bharat Jagdeo, to India in February, it added. So, a contract was also signed between Guyana Power and Gas Inc., a wholly owned company of the government of Guyana, and Engineers India Limited for providing the consultancy services for a 300 megawatt power plant project in Guyana. So, dear friends, this is really very overwhelming that how our country is diversifying the international trade with the major economies across the globe at such a rapid rate. And I would also like to bring to your knowledge that recently India had also signed a pact with Switzerland. So this is really amazing, really amazing. And here I would like to quote that India is actually preparing for the Sanjeevani booty. This is the basic phrase we use. That is, in the difficult times, it's said in Hindu mythology that the Sanjeevani booty can help you to survive. So, tell me, what is the Sanjeevani booty for the Indian economy? It's our leadership pattern. It's our overall perseverance. And the way we are diversifying because of our Sanjeevani booty is actually going to act as the protective shield. And we are also having the objective in the back of our mind that it's a global family. Yes. And we should be proud of our leaders who have such an amazing sense of belongingness with all the masses across the globe. This is truly marvelous. So dear friends, again, this was such an enlightening session, and I am really of the thought that you people must be full of pride of being Indians. So am I. So I hope you must have enjoyed this session with a great sense of enthusiasm, and you would have found this session very thrilling and very knowledgeable at the same time. So I would like to conclude this session here itself. It was a great pleasure interacting with you guys. Thank you so much. Namaskar. Jai Hind.